London. I want to bring in Benjamin Hall, who is in London reporting on this incident at the Oxford Circus subway station there. Police there responding to reports of shots fired. Benjamin Hall, what can you tell us?
Yeah, well, that's going on at the moment, and there is a major police operation underway at the moment. We still don't know the exact details. What we do know is that at about 4:45 this evening in Oxford Circus, this is the busiest shopping road in London. It's Black Friday, people making their way home. There were reports of shots fired, and police in a statement have said they responded as if this was a terror-related incident. We do not at this moment know whether it was or not, but we do know that hundreds of people were evacuated out of the station and surrounding shops onto the street, and they were urged by the police to get inside any buildings. We have seen armed police enter various shops in the area. They've moved upstairs in Selfridges, another very well-known shop there, and at the moment that is almost as much as we know. The trains are still passing through the tube stops, which makes us believe that there are no longer incidents down there, but we just don't know at the moment. Again, a huge police operation in one of the busiest parts of London at the moment. Reports of shots fired earlier on. Armed police on the scene at the moment, but that's very little. There's very little else that we can give you at the moment. That's what the police are saying to us. Now, the transport police, interesting enough, came out as well, and they said that they were responding to a customer incident. That's very vague terminology. We don't know what that means yet, but clearly, on this day of the year, Black Friday, one of the busiest streets in London, they are taking no chances, and a huge operation underway at the moment. We've seen videos of people comforting each other, some panic as the incident itself happened. We don't know what it was, but people streaming out, running as quickly as they could down the streets, with shoes discarded along the way. So clearly initial panic as this incident started to kick off, but no other details beyond there. But just watching the armed police move in some of these buildings, they're taking no chances, and they're going shop to shop. Whether they're looking for something specific or whether they're just clearing, we don't know. But about 4:45 in the evening, that's about quarter to midday in the US, is when this incident began, and police responding to shots fired is what they said, responding as if it were a terror incident. And of course, London has seen so many terror incidents in the last year and two that they just take no chances anymore. And in fact, there are roaming armed police in London waiting at all hours of the day to respond to incidents like this. So there's an incredibly quick response, but at the moment we do not know what that incident was. We just know that the police responded to reports of gunfire, and also that the transport police say that they were responding to a customer incident. But again, the busiest shopping street in London on one of the busiest days at one of the busiest times, this is the thing that police fear most. And as soon as we get any more details, we will bring you those from here in London.
Benjamin, it's Dagan McDowell. We're getting into this a little bit. We should remind our viewers that the people of London clearly are on edge after experiencing 2 terror attacks this year. The first in March 22nd, a driver mowed down pedestrians on Westminster Bridge, 5 dead, 49 injured. And then June, a similar tactic used by terrorists, 3 attackers driving a van into pedestrians on London Bridge, stabbing people at a nearby Borough Market, 8 dead, then 48 injured. You were talking about this, Benjamin, but what kind of heightened police presence have you seen living in and around the city? And just talk about the mood of Londoners, knowing that they could again be a target, particularly this time of year.
Well, that's right. You know, ISIS reaches out to its followers, and it suggests targets like this, like Parliament, like Borough Market, all of these locations where attacks have happened. They encourage their followers to get in a car to mow down people. And Oxford Circus, this very busy street, actually brought in bollards some months ago so that it's almost impossible for cars to veer off into pedestrians. So certainly one precaution that has been taken there. And actually, we've seen that across London, this need to protect pedestrians. But that being said, this is the time of year that ISIS would seek to attack. And again, a lot of their propaganda recently has been focused on the Christmas holiday. And you remember the Berlin attack from last Christmas there. Also, you know, this is a time of year that people are understandably nervous, and when ISIS seeks to attack. So, of course, heightened security. And you feel it on the streets of London. You know, even if a car backfires, even if there's an incident in a shopping centre where there's a fight, people panic, people run, because they know what has happened in the past. They've seen how bad it can get. So you're right. London feels on edge at the moment. And, of course, on a day like today, in a place like Oxford Circus, you're going to feel it more than anywhere else.
Benjamin, it's Trish Regan here. Obviously, you know, the city is on high alert and very concerned given the previous attacks we have seen this year. I realize there's very little information right now, but do we have any idea, were the police shooting at a suspect or was a suspect shooting at individuals? Any idea what may have transpired?
Not at the moment. All we know is that there were reports of shots fired. There's no confirmation that there were or there weren't, and they responded to those. So from what I gather, the police have not shot at any suspects. They've not fired their weapons, but they are heavily armed, and we've seen the images of them entering certain shops, very much on point, taking no chances. So very few details to give you, I'm afraid, except that they are responding as if this were a terror-related incident, is what they're saying, because they just don't take any more chances.
Were there any warnings going into this weekend? I mean, did the police put out any kind of extra warning for people there in London?
No, but we were reporting just, nothing specific to London, but we were reporting just a week ago about ISIS propaganda that was targeting Christmas holidays, the Vatican, the Pope, Mass. So certainly we have seen propaganda in general targeting this festive season.
Benjamin, and we have to be careful when we do report these initial details. Just after the most recent terror attack here in New York City, with that terrorist driving a rental van into crowds of people on a bike path in Lower Manhattan, killing 8 people. Again, I remember the initial reports out of that was it was a road rage incident, or there were reports of shots fired, and indeed it was police firing at the terrorist. So we report what is out there, but again, these are developing details. But Benjamin, have you seen any change in the number of people coming to London, in how just Londoners and people in Britain behave in the wake of the 2 earlier terror attacks?
You know, I can't speak to how many tourists are coming over. I do know some people have decided not to come to Europe in general. You speak to people in the States and they say, of course, it's a concern. We've seen the rise of attacks over there. Why would I risk doing that? But I would have to say that in London itself, there is a real resilience. And, you know, Londoners often talk back to the Second World War and the Blitz, when London was being bombed by the Germans regularly. And there is a sense of London spirit, a resilience, that people actively get back onto the streets right after attacks, as a way of showing their solidarity, as a way of showing terrorists that they will not be cowed by these sort of events. So certainly Londoners have not hidden at home. They haven't taken themselves off the streets. If anything, London itself is very much as it always has been. But I do think that it's affected tourism somewhat, and certainly other countries like France have felt that in a pretty big way. But today in particular, Oxford Street, Oxford Circus will be incredibly busy. I mean, this is one of the major thoroughfares of London. And we know that hundreds and hundreds of people were evacuated when this incident began. And you were right to say that there are conflicting reports early on in reporting of events like this. And often you get the same reports from multiple people. So 5 or 6 people will report one incident, and often the media jumps on it and says, well, there are 5 or 6 different things going on. So you're right. Everyone has to be cautious at this early stage. But we do know police are responding to this as if it were a terrorist incident, just because they can take no precautions.
Benjamin, stay right there. I'll let you do some news gathering. Benjamin Hall will come back to you. But joining us now on the phone is Waleed Faris, a Fox News international and security analyst. Waleed, what is your initial reaction to these news reports coming out of London and Oxford Street and the Oxford Circus tube station there?
Well, you know, images are speaking now. We are in the aftermath of what appears to be a violent incident with shots fired. But there is a background, and the background is about there has been in the past many incidents, many terror attacks in London. So it's not out of the blue. But at the same time, one has to be careful and wait very thoroughly and patiently for British authorities to assert if this was an act of terror, or this could have been violence, but not related to terror. So the next hours are going to be absolutely informative in terms of what the UK authorities will tell us. Now, when you see the deployment of armed guards, and then, of course, you start listening to the comments by experts, both in London, in Europe, and here, you kind of have the feeling that it looks like a terror activity, but we cannot make that judgment at this point in time.
This tweet from the Metropolitan Police in London: "We have not located any trace of suspects, evidence of shots fired, or casualties. Officers still on scene. If you were in a building, stay there. If you are on the street in Oxford Street, leave the area. Officers continue to search the area. More updates as soon as we have them." But this was about an hour and 15 minutes ago. Police in London responding to a number of reports of shots fired or gunfire near Oxford Street at the Oxford Circus tube station. Police responding as if it was a terrorist incident. Armed and unarmed officers on the scene. No reports of casualties. One woman sustaining minor injuries, according to the reporting from our partners at Sky News. Let's bring in Ed Davis, former Boston Police Commissioner, who was the police commissioner during the marathon bombing in the city of Boston. Ed, I think that not knowing the details on what we know that they haven't located a gunman, or they haven't even confirmed any shots fired. But Ed, this response by the police department was heavy duty and not surprising given what's been going on in London this year.
No question. These security services, especially in London, are at the highest level of readiness. And when you have an evening, Black Friday, people are out and starting their holiday shopping. They're expecting something to happen. They have additional personnel on board to cover this event. There's also a show in that area that would bring security services in. So when there's a report that gunshots are fired, they're going to react as if it's an active terrorist incident. However, in looking at the feeds that I've been watching and some of the announcements that have come out just recently, you have to remember that there are a lot of calls for gunshots that turn out to be false reports. Any loud noise, especially out of context, will be considered as if it, in fact, was a gunshot, and it takes some time to get to the bottom of it. But from the looks of what I'm seeing here, things seem to be a little laid back. These perimeters that they've set up are porous. People are walking back and forth quite a bit. And the messages that we're getting out of there would probably indicate that this might be a false report, and they just have to run it to ground before they can tell.
Ed, thank you so much for calling in. Ed Davis, former police commissioner in the city of Boston. Always great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, too. Thank you, Dee.
I want to get to a statement that we have from the British Transport Police. At 4:37 p.m. this afternoon, which would have been about an hour and 15 minutes ago, officers called to the Oxford Circus station following reports of gunfire on the westbound Central Line. Passengers at the station then self-evacuated the station onto Oxford Circus and Regent Street. This caused significant level of panic, which resulted in numerous calls from members of the public reporting gunfire. Officers responded in line with our procedure of a terrorist incident. This included armed officers from Transport and Metropolitan Police Departments. A full and methodical search of the station in Oxford Street was conducted by officers. At this stage, we are examining the circumstances of the incident, which resulted in the station being evacuated. During the evacuation, one woman is believed to have sustained a minor injury. We continue to work with the Metropolitan Police Service and are working to reopen Oxford Circus and Bond Street tube stations. We will bring you more as we get it, but again, this is a response to an incident at a tube station in the heart of London on one of the busiest shopping days, one of the busiest tourist days of the year. And you see a city on high alert, people in London on edge. We will bring you more as we have it. Outnumbered. We'll be right back.
Patrick